Hello, here we are. We're going to get going tonight with Leviticus 7, okay? So let's get going. And of course, this is still the Lord teaching the Israelites what he wants, okay? Regarding sin offerings, etc. So here we go. These are the regulations for the guilt offering. Now, if you think this isn't going to matter to your faith, it does. So just listen up, okay? These are the regulations for the guilt offering, which is most holy. The guilt offering is to be slaughtered in the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered, and its blood is to be splashed against the sides of the altar. All its fat shall be offered, the fat tail and the fat that covers the internal organs, both kidneys with the fat on them near the loins and the long lobe of the liver, which is to be removed with the kidneys. The priest shall burn them on the altar as a food offering presented to the Lord. It's a guilt offering. Any male in a priest's family may eat it, but it must be eaten in the sanctuary area. It is most holy. The same law applies to both the sin offering and the guilt offering. They belong to the priest who makes atonement with them. The priest who offers a burnt offering for anyone may keep its hide for himself, so he could make clothes out of it, I'm assuming, or sandals. Every grain offering baked in an oven or cooked in a pan or on a griddle belongs to the priest who offers it. Now, atonement means making up for sin, okay? So he's offering it as atonement for sin or guilt. And every grain offering, whether mixed with olive oil or dry, belongs equally to all the sons of Aaron, okay? This is a great example of the workman being worthy of his meat, okay? They get fed out of the gifts that are brought to God. These are the regulations for the fellowship offering anyone may present to the Lord. If they offer it as an expression of thankfulness, then along with this thank offering, they're to offer thick loaves made without yeast and with olive oil mixed in, thin loaves made without yeast and brushed with oil, and thick loaves of the finest flour, well kneaded and with oil mixed in. I just bought bread tonight. It's artisan bread, and it's got olive oil all through it, or olives or something, I don't know. And I thought about what we're reading here. You know, it would be kind of fun to be baking your bread and knowing that you were going to be offering this to the Lord, like you're baking for the Lord. Along with their fellowship offering of thanksgiving, they're to present an offering with thick loaves of bread made with yeast. They're to bring one of each kind as an offering, a contribution to the Lord. It belongs to the priest who splashes the blood of the fellowship offering against the altar. The meat of their fellowship offering of thanksgiving must be eaten on the day it's offered. They must leave none of it till morning. If, however, their offering is the result of a vow or is a free will offering, the sacrifice shall be eaten on the day they offer it. But anything left over may be eaten on the next day. Any meat of the sacrifice left over till the third day must be burned up. If any meat of the fellowship offering is eaten on the third day, the one who offered it will not be accepted. It will not be reckoned to their credit, for it's become impure. The person who eats any of it will be held responsible. Meat that touches anything ceremonially unclean must not be eaten. It must be burned up. As for other meat, anyone ceremonially clean may eat it. But if anyone who is unclean eats any meat of the fellowship offering belonging to the Lord, they must be cut off from their people. Anyone who touches something unclean, whether human uncleanness or an unclean animal or any unclean creature that moves along the ground, and then eats any of the meat of the fellowship offering belonging to the Lord, must be cut off from their people. Now, I will look into this, but I'm assuming that cut off from your people means sequestered somewhere for a certain period of time, okay? Or I don't know. I don't think it would be driven completely away, but I'll look into it and bring it back to you. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, don't eat any of the fat of cattle, sheep, or goats. The fat of an animal found dead or torn by wild animals may be used for other purposes, but you must not eat it. Anyone who eats the fat of an animal from which a food offering may be presented to the Lord must be cut off from their people. And wherever you live, you must not eat the blood of any bird or animal. Anyone who eats blood must be cut off from their people. The Lord said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, anyone who brings a fellowship offering to the Lord is to bring part of it as their sacrifice to the Lord. With their own hands, they're to present the food offering to the Lord. They're to bring the fat together with the breast and wave the breast before the Lord as a wave offering. The priest shall burn the fat on the altar, but the breast belongs to Aaron and his sons. You're to give the right thigh of your fellowship offerings to the priest as a contribution. The son of Aaron who offers the blood and the fat of the fellowship offering shall have the right thigh as his share. From the fellowship offerings of the Israelites, I've taken the breast that's waved and the thigh that's presented and have given them to Aaron the priest and his sons as their perpetual share from the Israelites. This is the portion of the food offerings presented to the Lord that were allotted to Aaron and his sons on the day they were presented to serve the Lord as priests. On the day they were anointed, the Lord commanded that the Israelites give this to them as their perpetual share for the generations to come. These then are the regulations for the burnt offering, the grain offering, the sin offering, the guilt offering, the ordination offering, and the fellowship offering, which the Lord gave Moses at Mount Sinai in the desert of Sinai on the day he commanded the Israelites to bring their offerings to the Lord. Leviticus 8. The Lord said to Moses, "Bring Aaron and his sons, their garments, the anointing oil, the bull for the sin offering, the 2 rams, and the basket containing bread made without yeast, and gather the entire assembly at the entrance to the tent of meeting." Moses did as the Lord commanded him, and the assembly gathered at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Moses said to the assembly, "This is what the Lord has commanded to be done." Then Moses brought Aaron and his sons forward and washed them with water. Remember, we were told they were to do that. He put the tunic on Aaron, tied the sash around him, clothed him with the robe, and put the ephod on him. He also fastened the ephod with a decorative waistband, which he tied around him. He placed the breastplate on him and put the Urim and Thummim in the breastpiece. That's the white stone and the black stone. I've got the pictures up on my feed, so make sure you go there. Then he placed the turban on Aaron's head and set the gold plate, the sacred emblem, on the front of it. That's the crown that the priests wear that says "Holy to the Lord," as the Lord commanded Moses. Then Moses took the anointing oil and anointed the tabernacle and everything in it, and so consecrated them. He sprinkled some of the oil on the altar 7 times. Now I want you to picture this: anointing the altar and all its utensils and the basin with its stand to consecrate them. He poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to consecrate him. Then he brought Aaron's sons forward, put tunics on them, tied sashes around them, and fastened caps on them as the Lord commanded Moses. He then presented the bull for the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Moses slaughtered the bull and took some of the blood, and with his finger he put it on all the horns of the altar to purify the altar. He poured out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. So he consecrated it to make atonement for it. Moses also took all the fat around the internal organs, the long lobe of the liver and both kidneys and their fat, and burned it on the altar. But the bull with its hide and its flesh and its intestines he burned up outside the camp as the Lord commanded Moses. He then presented the ram for the burnt offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Then Moses slaughtered the ram and splashed the blood against the sides of the altar. He cut the ram into pieces and burned the head, the pieces, and the fat. He washed the internal organs and the legs with water and burned the whole ram on the altar. It was a burnt offering, a pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord as the Lord commanded Moses. He then presented the other ram, the ram for the ordination. That means the ordaining of the priests. And Aaron and his sons laid their hands on its head. Moses slaughtered the ram and took some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Moses also brought Aaron's sons forward and put some of the blood on the lobes of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toes of their right feet. Then he splashed blood against the sides of the altar. After that, he took the fat tail, all the fat around the internal organs, the long lobe of the liver, both kidneys and their fat, and the right thigh. And from the basket of bread made without yeast, which was before the Lord, he took one thick loaf with olive oil mixed in, and one thin loaf, and he put these on the fat portions and on the right thigh. He put all these in the hands of Aaron and his sons, and they waved them before the Lord as a wave offering. Then Moses, this is rather mysterious, isn't it? Then Moses took them from their hands and burned them on the altar on top of the burnt offering as an ordination offering, a pleasing aroma, a food offering presented to the Lord. Moses also took the breast, which was his share of the ordination ram, and waved it before the Lord as a wave offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. Then Moses took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood from the altar and sprinkled them on Aaron and his garments and on his sons and their garments. So he consecrated Aaron and his garments and his sons and their garments. Moses then said to Aaron and his sons, "Cook the meat at the entrance to the tent of meeting and eat it there with the bread from the basket of ordination offerings as I was commanded. Aaron and his sons are to eat it." That's what the Lord said to Moses. "Then burn up the rest of the meat and the bread. Don't leave the entrance to the tent of meeting for 7 days until the days of your ordination are completed, for your ordination will last 7 days. What's been done today was commanded by the Lord to make atonement for you. You must stay at the entrance to the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days and do what the Lord requires so you will not die, for that's what I have been commanded." So Aaron and his sons did everything the Lord commanded through Moses. Leviticus chapter 9. On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take a bull calf for your sin offering and a ram for your burnt offering, both without defect, and present them before the Lord. Then say to the Israelites, take a male goat for a sin offering, a calf and a lamb, both a year old and without defect, for a burnt offering, and an ox and a ram for a fellowship offering to sacrifice before the Lord, together with a grain offering mixed with olive oil. For today the Lord will appear to you." They took the things Moses commanded to the front of the tent of meeting, and the entire assembly came near and stood before the Lord. Then Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded you to do, so that the glory of the Lord may appear to you." Moses said to Aaron, "Come to the altar and sacrifice your sin offering and your burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and the people. Sacrifice the offering that's for the people and make atonement for them as the Lord has commanded." So Aaron came to the altar and slaughtered the calf as a sin offering for himself. His sons brought the blood to him, and he dipped his finger into the blood and put it on the horns of the altar. The rest of the blood he poured out at the base of the altar. On the altar he burned the fat, the kidneys, the long lobe of the liver from the sin offering as the Lord commanded Moses. The flesh and the hide he burned up outside the camp. So see, he's learning. He just did the whole thing by himself. Then he slaughtered the burnt offering. So this is them starting their ministry, okay? His sons handed him the blood, and he splashed it against the sides of the altar. They handed him the burnt offering piece by piece, including the head, and he burned them on the altar. He washed the internal organs and the legs and burned them on top of the burnt offering on the altar. Something about this is beautiful, even though it's so primitive. Aaron then brought the offering that was for the people. He took the goat of the people's sin offering, slaughtered it, and offered it for a sin offering, as he did with the first one. He brought the burnt offering and offered it in the prescribed way. He also brought the grain offering, took a handful of it, and burned it on the altar in addition to the morning's burnt offering. You can imagine how everything is quiet while they're watching Aaron do this. He slaughtered the ox and the ram as the fellowship offering for the people. His sons handed him the blood, and he splashed it against the sides of the altar. But the fat portions of the ox and the ram, the fat tail, the layer of fat, the kidneys, and the long lobe of the liver, these they laid on the breasts, and then Aaron burned the fat on the altar. Aaron waved the breasts and the right thigh before the Lord as a wave offering, as Moses commanded. Then Aaron lifted his hands, towards the people and blessed them. And having sacrificed the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the fellowship offering, he stepped down. So he just did it all by himself. Moses and Aaron then went into the tent of meeting. When they came out, they blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat portions on the altar. And when all the people saw it, they shouted for joy and fell face down. Leviticus 10, and this will be our last one for tonight. Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, took their censers. Those are those round things the Catholic priests carry that have the incense in them, and they have little holes where the smoke comes out. Put fire in them and added incense, and they offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, contrary to his command. So they were casual about it. They're like, here, we'll just put this in, we'll take this ember from the fire, throw it in the censer, we'll offer this to the Lord. So fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Moses then said to Aaron, this is what the Lord spoke of when he said, quote, among those who approach me, I will be proved holy. In the sight of all the people, I will be honored, end quote. Aaron remained silent. Moses summoned Mishael and Elzaphan, sons of Aaron's uncle Uzziel, and said to them, come here, carry your cousins outside the camp away from the front of the sanctuary. So they came and carried them, still in their tunics, outside the camp as Moses ordered. Then Moses said to Aaron and his sons Eleazar and Ithamar, do not let your hair become unkempt, and don't tear your clothes, or you will die, and the Lord will be angry with the whole community. But your relatives, all the Israelites, may mourn for those the Lord has destroyed by fire. Don't leave the entrance of the tent of meeting, or you'll die, because the Lord's anointing oil is on you. So they did as Moses said. Then the Lord said to Aaron, you and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drink whenever you go into the tent of meeting, or you will die. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come, so that you can distinguish between the holy and the common, between the clean, unclean, and clean, and the clean. And so you can teach the Israelites all the decrees the Lord has given them through Moses. So that was the Lord talking to Aaron. Then the Lord, Moses said one thing to them, don't dishonor the anointing oil that's on you. Make sure you stay here. Then it says, then the Lord said to Aaron, don't drink fermented wine whenever you go into the tent of meeting, or you will die. It's a lasting ordinance, so that you can distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean, so you can teach the Israelites all the decrees the Lord has given them through Moses. Now Moses said to Aaron and his remaining sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, take the grain offering left over from the food offerings prepared without yeast and present it to the Lord, and eat it beside the altar, for it is most holy. Eat it in the sanctuary area, because it's your share and your son's share of the food offerings presented to the Lord, for so I have been commanded. But you and your sons and your daughters may eat the breast that was waved and the thigh that was presented. Eat them in a ceremonially clean place. They've been given to you and your children as your share of the Israelites' fellowship offerings. The thigh was presented and the breast that was waved. The thigh that was presented and the breast that was waved must be brought with the fat portions of the food offerings and be waved before the Lord as a wave offering. This will be the perpetual share for you and your children as the Lord commanded. This must have been very hard for Aaron. He's in grief. When Moses inquired about the goat of the sin offering and found that it had been burned up, he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's remaining sons, and asked, "Why didn't you eat the sin offering in the sanctuary area? It's most holy. It was given to you to take away the guilt of the community by making atonement for them before the Lord. Since its blood was not taken into the holy place, you should have eaten the goat in the sanctuary area as I commanded." Aaron replied to Moses, "Today they sacrificed their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord. But such things as this have happened to me. Would the Lord have been pleased if I had eaten the sin offering today?" When Moses heard this, he was satisfied. Now, I think he's talking about the grief of his son's death. And he's saying, there's some things I just can't do today. And I don't think the Lord's going to be upset about it. And it says, and I'll look into it and bring it back to you. Actually, let's go right now and look at what does it mean to cut off someone from their people. All right. Okay, this is not showing me the right stuff. All right, let's see. Scripturally. It's going on and on about narcissistic. Scripturally. The phrase "to cut off from one's people" is an antonym, or the opposite of "to be gathered to one's people." Example, Genesis 25. Oh, listen to what this means. And it says, and thus Kareth, Kareth, which we're going to look up that meaning, in the Bible means to be deprived of the afterlife. So I think it's about being buried with your people. So if someone does certain sins, they're to be cut off. Let's look here. In the Hebrew Bible, Kareth is a form of punishment which may mean premature death or exclusion from the people. Example of sins making a person liable include sexual violations, ritual impurities, which we're talking about, a man's refusal to be circumcised. Okay, so we get the point. Kareth is the punishment for certain crimes and offenses rather than made punishable by any earthly court. And it has a lot to do, a punishment that can only be given at the hand of heaven unto persons of the Jewish faith who are bound to keep the Jewish law rather than made punishable by an earthly court. The court inflicts punishment does not apply to non-Jews, which that kind of makes sense because it's always talking about the Jewish people. Like that's the important thing, is being a Jew in these books, of course. Let me look into it a little more and I'll have a better explanation tomorrow. And the other thing was Aaron refused the sin offering. Moses was satisfied. Let's just see what the impetus for all of that. Okay, it says, why did Moses, okay, here's the answer. Why did Moses say okay about Aaron not eating the sin offering? It says here, to understand keep in mind that Aaron lost 2 sons earlier this day because they violated the command of God. Thus, Moses was particularly jumpy about the sacrifices being done correctly because he didn't want to lose any more family to God's wrath. And he said, why have you not eaten the sin offering? Since it's most holy, God has given it to you to bear the guilt of the congregation, blah, blah. Okay, because the law was the priest who offers it for sin shall eat it, in a holy place it shall be eaten, and we read that, okay? And there you shall eat it to the Lord. Okay, then it says the worship offered was to be heard. I have not eaten any of it when in mourning, nor have I removed any of it for unclean use, nor have given any of it for the dead. I have obeyed the voice of the Lord my God, and have done according to all that you have commanded me. That's from Deuteronomy, so I don't even know if that's the same situation. It says, thus when Moses demanded to know why the sacrifice was not eaten, Aaron replied he couldn't eat it with joy. Okay, so these sacrifices are supposed to be done, and the worship is supposed to be done with joy and heartfelt worship. Because of the recent deaths of his sons, Aaron thought it better to skip that portion of the worship than to offer the Lord less than his best, or in a way that was against how God wanted it done. And Aaron said to Moses, look, this day they've offered their sin offering, their burnt offering before the Lord, and such things have befallen me. If I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have been accepted in the sight of the Lord? In other words, Aaron understood it was wrong not to eat the sacrifice, but he didn't want to commit a worse sin by offering a sacrifice to God that wasn't acceptable. In other words, he couldn't give it with joy because he was mourning sons, okay? All right, so I'm going to look into that last thing that we were talking about, Kereth, K-A-R-E-T-H, and I'll bring that back to you tomorrow. We'll pick it up at Leviticus 11. I love you very much. Keep praying, okay? The world is tossing and turning right now. Pray that we don't get involved in this war. Pray that it just stays where it is. Pray that it ends. I know Putin probably would be too embarrassed to stop it now. And even though I understand what Putin's doing, it doesn't make, the atrocities he's committing okay. I know the Lord is allowing it for many things. I just heard on the news, on conservative news, they were talking about how Ukraine has always been at the top of the list for corruption. So I know the Lord's hand is in it, but nobody wants to see children and women slaughtered, okay? I mean, that still affects me, obviously. But I'll be even more upset if our kids go over there and die for that cause. I don't know how it's going to end because, like I say, Putin is just going and going and going because if he pulls back now, he looks weak and he'll be a laughingstock. So, the matters of men are strange, okay? Because we're dealing with people and their pride and their hate. So just pray for peace. Pray that Putin can get out of this with dignity and stop what he's doing, because right now he's really ramping it up, and it is very hard to hear about children and women and men dying. Also, if you want to contribute or help, and this would be a good thing to consider, if you want to help the people in the Ukraine that are trying to get out, John Hagee Ministries, Hagee is H-A-G-E-E. He's a very radical preacher. I agree with him sometimes, I don't other times, but I trust him. He's doing a ministry right now to get the Jews out of the Ukraine. That would be a really good thing to support or look into at least. And then there's another ministry that ministers to Jews in the Holy Land. They are also sending in food and supplies to all people, especially the Jews stuck in the Ukraine. Now, from what I understand, many Russian soldiers have been leading the Ukrainians to safety and getting them, the Ukrainians, and getting them out of there. So this is a very confusing, very weird situation. It's a weird war, and just pray that we don't enter it, because if we enter it, I think all hell is going to break loose, okay? It's going to be a world war. So pray that God's hand stays on Biden and that Biden doesn't do anything crazy. I know he just sent $1 billion to the Ukrainians to get whatever they need to get. I love you very much. Keep all of that in prayer. Honestly, it's made me cry. For the last couple of nights, I've gone to bed and just wept over what's happening. It's so horrible. Okay, and once again, even if you understand why and how Putin is doing this, what, why, wherefore, whatever, doesn't mean that you don't think he's crazy or that you're on his side. It's just, trying to understand what's going on and not listening to the narratives. I love you. Please pray. I'll see you tomorrow for Leviticus 11. Good night.